Oh, it's right there.
Hi, good morning, Peter and Tom. Good morning, everyone else, and thank you so much for inviting us here this morning to have breakfast with you and to talk about the library. You said something, you referenced something that caught my ear a little earlier, and that was the changing of the name of the organization and the difficulty you had in getting that done. Early in the library campaign, we also had a similar difficulty that I remember very, very well. We were just starting the capital campaign, and it occurred to us that we really needed to come up with a name for the capital campaign that would be catchy, that would be immediately identifiable. So we very originally came up with Peterborough Library Campaign. We sent our application off to the Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire. And sometime later, not immediately, but sometime later, I got a letter from them saying, we're sorry, but that DBA, doing business as, is already owned by another organization. And I couldn't believe it. How could somebody else own the name Peterborough Library Campaign? So I wrote back to them and said, who owns this name? I need to talk to them. And the answer came back, the Friends of the Peterborough Town Library. So I immediately went over and spoke to them about it, and they had no idea that this name actually belonged to them. What I have figured out, I think, is that back in 1978, the last time the library was renovated or added onto, there must have been a campaign of sorts, and somebody else was very original and came up with the designation Peterborough Library Campaign. So after conferring with the Friends of the Library, they said, sure, of course, you can use the name. So we've been sort of working on a borrowed name, not necessarily borrowed time, but you know the rest of the story. We were successful in raising money to build what ended up being about an $8.5 million project. And one thing I want to drive home today, perhaps we were a little remiss about this in our ceremony on Sunday, but during all of the excitement, I'm sure you can understand that it's very easy to lose sight of, you can't keep your eye on everything. But what I'd like to point out today is that this project was really a public-private partnership. And I can't exaggerate the importance of the $3 million town bond. That was very, very important to the success of the project. So again, it wasn't just us at the 1833 Society or the library trustees, but the public had a hand in this as well. So we can take some credit, but we certainly can't take all the credit. You've heard me do a dog and pony show before. I remember showing you some graphics about our progress in designing the building, but my intent appearing here today is to answer any questions that you might have. So there are three of us. I'm, again, Ron McIntyre. I'm going to be quiet in about 30 seconds. And I got involved in the project because at one time I was a library trustee, but even before that, libraries were always very important to me. And that began with my mom getting her driver's license in part so that she could take me and then my younger brothers and sisters to our public library. So that's really where it all began. And here we are today in Peterborough with a brand new library in so many ways. It's going to be available to the public. So Audrey, would you like to take over? Thank you.
So for those of you who maybe weren't there on Sunday, I'm Audrey White and I chaired the capital campaign. And I also was a library trustee in 2004 or 5. Ronnie had been there since 2001. And at that time, years and years ago, the trustees were already talking about the improvements that were needed at the library. And also at that time, it was a renovation. And we quickly realized that it was going to be more expensive to renovate than it would be to rebuild. And we also had the deficiencies identified for both the 1950s and the 1970s additions. And the hope was to strengthen, if needed, the historic building. It didn't need much strengthening. It was built by a bridge builder and designed by a bridge builder. So the decisions were made as the years went by. This is a very long project, that the 2 additions would have to come down. The building needed to be more sustainable. It needed to be safer for adults and children. That stairway, that open stairway in the middle of the building used to drive me crazy. I always worried about people falling down it. So yet another group was formed. We had our ups and downs. We had a design we didn't like, tossed that out the window, and hired the present architects and got just a magnificent, affordable, sustainable, safe building. That is, as probably most of you know, it is absolutely gorgeous. And the word that we heard the most on Sunday as the public toured it was that it is elegant. It came in on budget and on time. And we're just incredibly proud of it. I do have some stats for you about the campaign because that was my job. So we had, when you go in the back door, what I call the back door, the Riverside Terrace door, there's a donor wall. And you will see a listing there of 934 donors. These people met with us, they reviewed the plans, they asked good questions, they supported us financially and in other ways. They're from 36 states and 62% are from Peterborough. And there's even one from Singapore. We started meeting the core group of the Capital Campaign Committee, obviously Ron, Peggy, Cy Greg, Stan Fry. Well, no, sorry. Our first task was to ask for Cy Greg, Stan Fry, and Dorothy Peterson to serve as honorary chairs. They all recommended one another, and then they all agreed to serve together. And then Polly Guth, the late Polly Guth, joined them a little bit later. But the core group, Ronnie, Peggy, Sue Martin, Tina Kriebel, Sandy Bebas, Deb Kaplan, Tori Herring-Smith, and of course Corinne, that core group met every single Thursday from September 16th, 2015, right up until now. The quotes that you heard this morning from Bob, we have heard all of them. They are perfect because when we first started out the campaign, we realized we had to educate people that there are a lot of people that thought in the age of Google, you didn't need libraries anymore, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We also realized that in the middle of a pandemic, we were going to be raising this money. That added to the stress a little bit. But this group was not to be denied. And we managed to raise $8.5 million. So, but when we first began, and I said this the other day, we had no office, we had no staff, we had no computer, we had no software, we had no marketing department, we had nothing. We met in that bottom room of the old library that had heating and air conditioning only in the wrong season. We, we could see from that table, people going, as soon as 10 o'clock struck, people started coming in, adults and children going up into the library and continued all day. It was a very, very busy place, which was just wonderful for all of us to see. We had a fundraising council for 2 years who had enormous faith in us. We had 2 boards who had faith in us, 1833 and the library trustees, who were just behind the project all the way financially and otherwise. And then our core group really came together. We kept our senses of humor. Our families put up with constant meetings and events and requests for food. And it got done. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. No question? Yes,
Does that committee now disappear?
yes. The 1833 society was established only to raise the money
That's what I thought.
and to oversee the building.
Oh, well done.
And Ronnie can tell you that it's not easy to take this organization away.
As far as the 1833 society, we can't and won't dissolve until we've collected our last pledge to the campaign. So, no, we can't fade into the sunset until that is fully accounted for, and the job is done. At this point, in any project, there are bound to be surprises. And we're not going to disappear until we're absolutely sure that the grass is really going to grow, things like that. So we'll be around for probably, I would guess, almost another year. Then we can think about dissolving the organization. But meantime,
Peggy,
Peggy,
Audrey,
yes.
would you take down your mask and I'll take it off?
Oh,
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Peggy Van Valkenburg.
Thank you. Hi. Hello. I wasn't there at the onset. I think I might have been still teaching at South Meadow School. So I've come to you from a long history of teaching middle schoolers, science, math, and all the other things. But as I was retiring, my eyes were open to accept and take on something. So that was 5 years ago. And I was really drawn to this project. And because I've witnessed how students of mine, how kids of mine needed the public library and used it. So for a number of different reasons, to do a research project for Mrs. Van, or to simply have a place to go after school, or, numbers of ways, and the services that were provided. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and a big family, and nothing really, I didn't own, you don't own much when you're from a family of 6. There's just everything shared. And I can remember, though, my interest in public libraries began back then because I would go to the library and I got to choose my books. I mean, that was just such a treat to me. And it started with that. Then all through college, et cetera, we continued. You all have experiences of falling asleep, I'm sure, in your college libraries, as do I. So when I entered this committee, this wonderful, welcoming group of people, I wanted to figure out how I might best help out them. And I really enjoy working with design and color. And so what I ended up doing is heading up the furniture committee. And so the furniture committee was my committee. And did not understand all of how you go about ordering up all this furniture. So I immediately went and spoke with a librarian who had just finished their program, their project in Weymouth, Massachusetts. And he explained to me the project and how you go through the RFP and all of those RFQs and foreign words, foreign initials to me. So, but we did it. And with his kind guiding, I got started. And then I got a good group of people that I really would enjoy working with. And I knew also had sort of a distinct eye for design. And from that point on, we tried, we brought in furniture, we sat on things, we did everything. We felt the fabric, we checked out the carpeting, we coordinated with the paint colors and had a really, to me, that was a lovely time. That was I will honestly miss that work, enjoyed it tremendously. So that was how I fit into that whole fundraising, the capital campaign. Of course, I was trying to take on all of the last of the finances that needed to be raised. And I'm sure many of you have been on capital campaign committees to know that last 10% was the dickens. It was hard. And, but our group was fabulous. We'd gather, we'd kind of get in that meeting and we'd realize that things weren't moving, things weren't progressing. And somehow we would figure out a way to put a positive spin on it and keep working, keep pushing, try something new. We were very open to ideas. It has been a true pleasure to me. So then this week we had the opening and all the volunteers, because of that background of being a teacher and keeping things, super organized. I headed up that volunteer group that you might have met if you were able to come Sunday. And that was, everything was done. I think it went smoothly. So we welcome all of you to the library to please come and walk through if you have not done that. Just for a special treat for your eye. That architecture is fabulous.
Can you mention Carl?
Oh, so yes, I can mention Carl. Carl von Mertens, who many of you may know in town. He is married to Francie von Mertens, who is a naturalist of wonderful sorts. But Carl is an incredible furniture maker. And if you'd like to hear the true story is I was on a hike in the woods and I met this young man who was a Dublin school shop teacher, not Carl. And I said, oh, maybe we could use you as we're choosing our furniture. Maybe you'd like to help us along with furniture. And he said, I could, but I think the man you want to talk to is Carl von Mertens, because he created every table that is at Dublin School right now. Every table in that building was his. Carl's a retired math teacher. So I met with Carl, and from that point on, totally a fabulous relationship with that wonderful guy. All of the cherry wood tables that you'll see in the library were created by Carl, including the boardroom table, which I could see your group using, which is a piece of art. And I got to go into his shop and see the saws and check out the sanders and all of that stuff. And right from the get-go, he's still asking me, is there something else? Is there something else I can make? So generosity abounded. And that's how I fit in to the whole project. And please do come, welcome, sit down, bring your laptops, or we have many regular computers for you to use, etc. Curl up in a chair in the quiet reading room. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, so enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome any questions.
Railmore Opera is beginning production of Hansel and Gretel, which we plan to release. It's going to be a video production in December. And we're looking for venues to screen this, coupled with some live operatic performances. And the suggestion came up of the library. Who would I contact?
Corinne Chronopoulos.
Okay.
Or
Do
Mary.
you have a
Hubbard.
number or
If
something?
you just go to the library website, everything is there.
Okay.
And I have to say that when that music performed on Sunday in that room, the acoustics are perfect. There's also a screen and all the technology.
Yeah, screening and
Yeah, all the technology.
projection. Yeah.
It's right there.
I have a question about future funding of the library. Will there be needs for funds in the future, and how will those be raised?
We've already, or Corinne has already started the